65 million years ago, the dinosaurs dominated our planet, and since the first fossils were discovered over a century ago, we've been utterly captivated by them. While these ancient reptiles had featured in many films, books, and other media, it was 1993's Jurassic Park that made them a pop culture sensation around the globe. Here's a piece of trivia for all you viewers. I was a huge fan of dinosaurs when I was little. Back in 1999, it all started when I watched Walking with Dinosaurs far too many times at age 6, and Jurassic Park only added to my obsession. My favourite beast of the bunch? Allosaurus, the lion of the Jurassic. I still own the trilogy DVD box set to this day, which remains one of the best packages the format's had to offer. Nowadays though, the franchise is known more for its box office bloat rather than quality productions. In plain talk, here's what I think about each main release now. By far the best, a compelling blockbuster with technological leaps that still hold up today. Outside of some plot holes, it makes for great viewing. Not as good as the first, but still features some solid set pieces. Many of the performances are rather bland though. Entertains you well enough for an hour and a half, and Sam Neill is on top form, but the annoying side characters are total rubbish. Seemingly a welcome comeback when I first saw it, but it tips into mindless blockbuster action while missing the same wonder of the original. Easily the weakest entry in the series at this point. It goes down the more contained route, only to fall on its arse with baffling decisions and characters you don't care about. As the movies raked in millions of dollars, gaming companies were very keen to cash in on the hype. From platformers to oddball puzzle titles and episodic stories, Jurassic Park games have been very common through the years. One genre generated the greatest potential for releases based on the license, the park building simulator. Thanks to the likes of Roller Coaster Tycoon and Theme Park, would-be managers got their chance to construct their own grand attractions any way they wanted. Naturally, ideas started floating around, the same way crossing Battlefield with Star Wars created the Battlefront series. Another top-tier concept came along in the early 2000s. In a sea of Jurassic Park games ranging from average to awful, one stood at the top of the pile for over a decade after its release. Following the basic Jurassic Park free builder on the Game Boy Advance, we had Operation Genesis from Blue Tongue Entertainment. Released in 2003, sometime after the franchise's hype had died down, it was a dream come true for dinosaur fans, myself included. Throughout the 5 films, Jurassic Park was a failure as an attraction. It turns out that once you get past their majestic appearances, dinosaurs are incredibly difficult to control. But what if this fictional park actually did succeed? What if John Hammond's extravagant vision really did come to life? That's the role you're placed in for the game, and from the moment it opens, Genesis states,
"It's yours, Jurassic Park."
This is the guiding principle that fuels the entire experience. Booting up Operation Genesis mode, you'll kick things off with a blank canvas on which to build however you see fit. Your objective is to reach a full happiness rating and crank up the park's star rating all the way up to 5. All the dinosaurs from the original trilogy are here and accounted for, from the lowly Torosaurus to the mighty Spinosaurus. One of the game's most rewarding moments is reaching the genome threshold and releasing more popular creatures, a theme song and announcement marking the moment. In keeping with the films, your advisors are all characters pulled straight from the story for some added authenticity, and their voice actors do a reasonable job of imitating the main cast. They'll keep you posted on all the big events in the mailbox, and thanks to the highly intuitive control scheme, you're just a button press away from items that need your attention. Yet this only scratches the surface of the game's depth. The development team did a surprisingly solid job of implementing attractions. Considering Jurassic Park only featured the Safari Tour, Operation Genesis adds in viewing platforms and balloon tours to name a few, taking the player beyond the film and further expanding on what the park could have been. Observing from above and placing amenities, security features and paddock fences is a cinch, even if the camera can't always reach every angle you need. Then it's on to keeping your visitors entertained. Primitive as these visitor models may look today, you have access to many pieces of information. What they're into, their current impression of the park, and the type of dinosaur they prefer. By renaming attractions and tailoring them to their liking, it's very intuitive to bring your park in line with expectations. Once you've finished up the main mode, you can tackle the missions. The objectives on offer are fairly basic, but they utilise the game's tools in effective ways. One moment you'll be driving around taking pictures of the dinosaurs in action, and the next you'll be guiding a group of herbivores through a maze using a repellent signal. For a title that came out in 2003, it gets pretty inventive with its toolset. Much of this comes down to taking direct control of vehicles yourself, from the Safari rover through to the Ranger helicopter. But the sandbox sensibilities don't stop there. Once you finish the 12 main missions, Site B is unlocked. With no guests or fences to worry about, you're free to breed any dinosaur you like and watch them battle to the death. It's not all that deep, but for any fan of Jurassic Park, it's a solid reward that lets you kick back and let the creatures fight it out for a while. And another great feature? Cheat codes. Back when I first bought the game on PS2, I'd spend a lot of time messing around with modifiers, which extended the game's replayability even further. Nearly 2 decades later, Operation Genesis does show its age in some ways. I could never get the Safari tour to work, as it was very strict on where you could put your markers. The island generator also had its limitations. In the 1993 film, Jurassic Park was nestled inside a large mountain range, but in the game the island remains mostly flat. There's no way to really go wild with the initial setup. Luckily, if you're on PC, the game has mod support, and players are still making their own content for the title to this day. All told, Operation Genesis is still highly regarded by fans, and for good reason. More than any other release at the time, it captured the fun factor of playing the movie. Many years after Jurassic Park 3, the excitement surrounding the franchise died down as other properties took over in the mid to late 2000s. In 2015, the franchise made a massively successful comeback, raking in over $1 billion at the box office. You could say that Jurassic World single-handedly revitalized dinosaurs on the big screen. Yet unlike the original trilogy, video games surrounding the license were now far less common. The British studio Frontier Developments is incredibly well versed in park building sims, having put out the brilliant Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster in recent years. All the pieces were there to make Jurassic World Evolution a substantial upgrade from Operation Genesis. The result is a bit complicated. On the one hand, the overall fidelity and close ties with the newer films are all on point, but when it came down to the design and overall fun factor, things feel a little lacking. But before we get to the critique, let's look at the good elements. Evolution takes full advantage of newer hardware. I especially love the building animations and the way the game cuts to each dinosaur emerging from the breeding paddock. It's a great way of showing off these animals in their prime. The developer consulted paleontologist Jack Horner, who also provided insights on the films themselves. The result is incredibly detailed dinosaurs that continue to play a major role in the parks you build. On top of this, there's a greater sense of progression to the overall experience. As park builder, you'll be taking contracts from 3 main branches: science, entertainment, and security. Each of these features its own set of missions that offer rewards and further expansion to what Jurassic World can offer. The game is also a breeze to control, with more flexibility in building placements and improved accuracy when taking control of vehicles. Just being able to place a curved path or altering the landscape without being blocked shows how far the genre has progressed. Thanks to the pop-out menu on the left, you've got constant access to everything you need, from fossil expeditions to a broad view of how the park is performing. Evolution's overall look is very much in line with the newer films, with all their advanced technology and updated visuals. When you look past the slick menus and aesthetics, however, Evolution does show its weaknesses, and they begin with panning around the map. Notice how you end up getting stuck at invisible walls when you move too far away from the buildings. Wouldn't you want to branch out and build across the entire island? Sure, it all looks great running on the Cobra engine, but you're unable to move behind the mountains and extend the park's boundaries any further. For all the talk of making Jurassic World as enjoyable as possible for the guests, you can't help but feel a bit restricted. This changes depending on which game mode you're playing. Challenge mode drops the sandbox-based design for what is effectively a set of time trials. On a blank canvas, you'll have to reach a popularity threshold within 4 hours or another timescale. While not a throwaway effort, they do leave you wishing for something that would vary up the gameplay more. Taking control of the gyrosphere, for example, could have been used in an obstacle course avoiding the carnivorous dinosaurs. While the campaign mode does add some additional structure to the package, it does prove a bit disruptive to other elements. Most notably, keeping your guests happy and engaged has been heavily neutered. In Operation Genesis, you simply held down a shoulder button to see guest impressions at a glance. It was simple, effective, and gave you something to pursue when it came to achieving that 5-star rating. In Evolution, it's all about keeping your scientific, entertainment, and security advisors satisfied instead. By leaning more into the corporate side of things, the game ironically embraces the more production line standards of the modern films. And of course, being a modern game, there are no cheat codes or ways to play around with the overall experience. The biggest disappointment for me though was how the sandbox mode, often considered the bread and butter of classic park builders, is locked off until you beat at least one campaign with 4 stars. They couldn't have just one map unlocked from the start? It's as if the developer really wanted to push the formula forward, but ended up doing so with several strings attached. To get to the more customizable elements, you're railroaded down other modes first, and with more limited options to boot. Jurassic World Evolution has more content and gloss on offer, but somewhere along the way it seemed to forget about what makes park builders so enjoyable in the first place. Theme park builders aren't as prevalent as they used to be. The previously open nature of the PC platform has given way to more predictable AAA releases that arrive with plenty of downloadable content in tow. The mobile scene professes to offer many park building games, but more often than not they boil down to the same basic structure and are riddled with microtransactions. With changes in business models, licensed releases are also less likely to be pursued unless they bring in record profits. The enjoyment of the genre stems from how you can play a park builder game or play with it. On looking back, there's still some work to be done to get the JP Park Builder up to the same standards as the greatest business sims. With Jurassic World Dominion on the way in 2022, it's likely Frontier Developments will add a large chunk of extra content to coincide with the movie's release. The success of Jurassic Park games is often defined by their proximity to the films, and once the franchise retires again, we'll see releases like Operation Genesis and Evolution disappear along with it. Thanks for watching. The Jurassic Park building sims remain mostly enjoyable in spite of their gaps. Which of the 2 games was your favourite, and what would you add in a new release? Let me know in the comments below. You can follow my blog and channel at the links in the description.